Now that we've completed this module, let's move on to some common business analysis interview questions and answers on stakeholders and their needs. Question 1. How do you manage difficult or resistant stakeholders? Answer. 1. Understand the root cause by listening actively to understand why they are resistant. It could be as a result of fear of change, lack of clarity, past experiences, or conflicting priorities. 2. Acknowledge their concerns by validating their perspective and show that their concerns are taken seriously. 3. Communicate clearly and transparently by explaining the project goals, benefits, and constraints in clear, non-technical terms. 4. Involve them early and appropriately by engaging them in discussions and decision-making where relevant, so they feel ownership rather than being imposed upon. 5. Focus on benefits and value by relating the project outcomes to what matters most to them, how it helps their role, team, or objectives. 6. Negotiate and find common ground by looking for compromises or alternative solutions that still align with business goals. 7. Escalate when necessary if resistance continues to block progress, by escalating through the appropriate governance channels with facts and impact analysis. Question 2. How do you manage stakeholder expectations? Answer. I manage stakeholder expectations by ensuring clarity, communication, and alignment from the start of the project and throughout its life cycle. First, I identify and engage stakeholders early to understand their goals, priorities, and definition of success. This helps set realistic expectations about what the project can and cannot deliver. Second, I clearly define and agree on scope, requirements, timelines, and constraints, and make sure these are documented and signed off. This reduces misunderstandings and scope creep. Third, I communicate regularly and transparently, providing progress updates, highlighting risks, and managing changes through an agreed change control process. If something is likely to impact delivery, I raise it early. I also prioritize requirements collaboratively, ensuring stakeholders understand trade-offs between time, cost, and quality. Finally, I manage expectations during change by assessing impacts, explaining implications clearly, and helping stakeholders make informed decisions. Overall, managing stakeholder expectations is about building trust, maintaining open communication, and aligning expectations with achievable outcomes. Question 3. How do you prioritize conflicting stakeholders' needs? Answer. I prioritize conflicting stakeholders' needs by aligning them with business objectives, understanding value and impact, and facilitating informed decision-making. First, I fully understand each stakeholder's needs, including the problem they are trying to solve and the value it brings to the business. This helps separate real needs from preferences. Next, I assess each requirement against agreed criteria such as business value, risk, regulatory impact, urgency, cost, and dependency, and using prioritization techniques like Moscow value versus effort or weighted scoring ensures decisions are objective rather than opinion-based. I then facilitate discussions between stakeholders, clearly explaining trade-offs and impacts, and encourage collaboration to reach a shared agreement. Where conflicts remain, I escalate decisions to the appropriate sponsor or governance body, providing clear analysis and recommendations. Finally, I document the agreed priorities and communicate them clearly, so all stakeholders understand the rationale behind the decisions. Overall, my approach ensures prioritization is transparent, fair, and aligned with organizational goals. Question 4. How do you ensure stakeholders' needs align with business objectives? Answer. I ensure stakeholders' needs align with business objectives by establishing clear business goals, validating requirements against those goals, and maintaining continuous alignment throughout the project. First, I work with sponsors and senior stakeholders to clearly understand and document the business objectives, success criteria, and strategic priorities. Next, during requirements elicitation, I trace each stakeholder need back to a business objective by asking why the requirement exists and what value it delivers. If a need does not support a business goal, I challenge it or treat it as a lower priority. I then use requirements traceability to maintain alignment, ensuring every requirement maps to a business objective and measurable benefit. Throughout the project, I engage stakeholders regularly, review changes, and reassess alignment whenever scope, priorities, or constraints change. Finally, I support decision-making by presenting clear impact analyses, helping stakeholders understand trade-offs and make choices that best support organizational goals. Overall, this approach ensures stakeholder needs are value-driven, justified, and aligned with the business strategy. Now let's look at some scenario-based questions and use the STAR method to answer them. Question 1. Describe a time you dealt with a key stakeholder who had unrealistic expectations. Answer. Situation. On a digital transformation project, a senior stakeholder expected a complex reporting feature to be delivered within a very short time frame, without considering technical constraints or resource availability. Task. As the business analyst, my responsibility was to manage the stakeholders' expectations while ensuring the project remained aligned with scope, timelines, and business priorities. Action. I first met with the stakeholder to fully understand their expectations and the business value behind the request. I then worked with the technical team to assess feasibility, effort, and risks. Using this information, I presented clear options, including realistic timelines, trade-offs, and a phased delivery approach. I communicated the impact of each option in business terms and recommended a minimum viable solution for the initial release. Result. The stakeholder agreed to a phased approach, the project stayed on schedule, and the most critical reporting needs were delivered first. This improved trust, reduced future scope changes, and strengthened stakeholder engagement. Question 2. Describe a time when two stakeholders had conflicting needs. How did you handle it? Answer. Situation. During a system enhancement project, the operations team wanted strict controls to reduce risk, while the sales team requested faster workflows to improve customer response times. Their needs directly conflicted. Task. As the business analyst, I needed to understand both perspectives, resolve the conflict, and ensure the solution aligned with overall business objectives. Action. I met with each stakeholder group separately to understand their needs, underlying concerns, and success criteria. I then analyzed the business processes and impacts of each requirement. Next, I facilitated a joint workshop where I presented the findings, highlighted trade-offs, and linked each need back to business goals. Using prioritization techniques and a value versus risk assessment, we explored compromise options, including configurable controls and phased implementation. Result. Both stakeholder groups agreed on a balanced solution that met compliance needs while improving sales efficiency. The project moved forward without delays, and stakeholder relationships were strengthened through transparent decision-making. Now it's your turn. Pause the video and try answering the following business analyst general and scenario-based interview questions. General interview questions. 1. How do you ensure stakeholders remain engaged throughout the project? 2. How do you identify and analyze stakeholders' needs? Scenario-based interview questions. 1. What would you do if a key stakeholder is not available or engaged? 2. How do you handle a situation where senior stakeholders disagree? I hope this module has helped you gain a clear understanding of stakeholders and their needs. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next module. Thanks and bye for now.